What is up? What is good in the hood? My friends, angels, millennial core babes alike. It is I, Saint Sir Coach, and we're here to check for collective messages and do an energy reading with some cards today. And yeah, really leaning into whatever comes up. So let's see what those energies are. And let's see what the vibe is, shall we? It's been a really hot summer, and continues the world continues to be on fire and just ridiculous. It's always been like that, right? Like if we think about, like, just because we're not looking up the news, just because we don't live in a certain part of the world doesn't mean that violence and war have like ever ceased. I know since I've even been alive, like there are countless countries that have had war, genocide, apartheid since I've been alive. Nonstop, or it's like rotated around regions, but there hasn't been any time there's been like peace, even in the United States, right? We have some people who say, "Oh, I don't remember this police brutality stuff ever being a thing when I was younger." And they're talking about the 80s and 90s as if in the 80s and 90s there weren't huge cases on police brutality even in the news. But if you didn't watch the news because you were a little kid, then of course you wouldn't know because it wasn't your neighborhood, right? If you weren't around it, then to you didn't exist. It's kind of like if you didn't see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, hear it, it wasn't real, right? But something I'd like to encourage us in this current day and age, in this age of Aquarius, in this age of millennial core and the Y2K renaissance, and the resurgence of all things early 2000s and 2010s, is to recognize that just because you aren't witnessing it doesn't mean it's not real, doesn't mean it's not true, doesn't mean it's not happening, right? Just because you can't bear witness to it for whatever reason, it's not happening around you. You can deny it all you want, but to deny someone's reality, is gaslighting. And we don't support gaslighting in this house, okay? So I just want everyone to keep in mind, it's just like the saying, oh, a tree falls down in the forest. If there's anyone, it doesn't matter if there's no one around. The tree falls, and then there is sound through, at the very least, vibrations. And there are animals in nature, there are plants around the other tree that will be like, oh my God, are you okay? There are birds that will fly away once the tree drops to the ground. There are, you know, repercussions for cutting down that tree. Um, or if that tree was damaged and cut at over time, and then when it did finally fall there weren't any human witnesses, that doesn't mean shit. um Humans aren't even that old compared to a lot of other species on this earth, so we need to humble ourselves, stay humble, right? Stay humble. If you're in the colonized west, you have access to clean water, and your rights, your humanity isn't being questioned on the daily. Sometimes we just need to shut up and listen to those around us. Um, and if others are in need, then We need to take care of our neighbors in any way we can. Even if we don't know what to do, what we can do, we can at least send our well wishes. We can at least pray, hope, send good vibes, share someone's GoFundMe. We're not completely helpless in this whole earth school thing, in this whole life thing. We're not helpless. We're not. Even when we feel hopeless, we are not helpless. The Poet, card 7, very mystical, spiritual number, number 7. The Poet, beautiful archetype card to get and pull out. Today, I'm not going to show the cards. So if you're a very visual person and my face in the background, I have my virtual background of little cherubs isn't enough for you, then you can click on another video. But I'm not going to rely on the visual today. So you can sit back, relax. Now, if there are cards where the visual descriptions are like too good, I'll describe them, but I mostly am feeling the need to describe and read the energies that I'm getting from the overall collective message from all of the cards put together, not necessarily hyper focusing on describing illustrations of one card in particular, because then it's just a lot of words and it gets really complicated and convoluted, and we don't need all of that sometimes. So I'm going to be using a mix of tarot and oracle here. I'm having a hard time with this one deck. Okay. Spirit guides, angels, and ancestors. Any guidance you can share for the collective today would be awesome. Any guidance, wisdom, things to think about, wherever we're at, wherever you're meeting us at for this timeless reading. Thank you. The Knight of Wands. We have fiery energy. Also determination. So if you're in a place of stagnation, that's like, boop, there's the motivation, there's the energy you've been looking for. Yeah, and then we have 5 of Wands in reverse. So that tension that was previously there, now we're having this, yes, this mastery is coming alive for us. And again, I remember I said, helpless and hopelessness, right? It's like, we're not helpless. We're not. We may feel that way. And what gets the best of us is our thoughts, right? We have Knight of Swords reversed. So, right, this is, so I'll read them as reversals as they're coming out really strongly today. And here, it's like, well, we could have, we have inside of us the ability to overcome negative self-talk, self-doubt, intrusive thoughts that say we are helpless or not good enough. and when we put ourselves down, but we're still maybe stuck in a little bit of that energy, right? And so thinking about how we can take on that Knight of Swords power for ourselves, reclaim that power for ourselves, right? And there is this idea with the Knight. There is, whoa, there's millions of cards jumped out. With the Knight, two Knights here, which is interesting. Knights, they usually indicate like offerings. Eight of Wands. And in this deck, it's quite positive. This Eight of Wands, it's really like running towards really having more power and in our decision making, being inspired and running towards going towards our goals. Okay. So this is good news. This is like maybe we have some misalignment still going on, right? But we are moving towards it. We know we have the self-awareness to say, okay, I recognize what my problems are. We might be saying that, these things to, if we're in therapy, saying these things to our therapist or our friends, right? We're like, well, I know what my problem is, and I know how I'm getting in my own way. It's just hard. It's whether we're trying to break old habits, trying to move out of stagnation, maybe we are neurodivergent, maybe we have a job that consumes us or other responsibilities in our life. Maybe it's disability and chronic illness. That shit will wear you out, no matter what conditions you have, mental or physical. These things take a toll on mind, body, and spirit. By the time you get to thinking about your spiritual wellness, you spend so much time investing in your mental well-being and in your physical body well-being, even doing the bare minimum. By the time you get to your soul, you're like, damn, ugh, I gotta meditate now, I gotta pray now. What do I even believe in? Come on. And then for me, I speak from my own experience. At least that's how I feel, right? It's like the bare minimum is actually taking care of the meat sack, because if the meat sack um isn't kept like up to date, if you're not updating this as the software of your hardware, you're not taking care of the hardware and the software. I think it's like the software, it's like the software updates is like mental expansion and mental health, right? And having an open mind, things like that. And then hardware is like the physical meat sack, the physical body, and not just like the skin, but like all the organ systems and all of that. And then there's like the soul. For me, it's like, you know, it's like it in the past, I'll say this, I have accidentally endangered my body, my physical body, and my mental state has also been endangered because I have ended up um in my Kundalini awakening. I was like only focusing, one, I didn't realize there's a Kundalini awakening, and then I forgot everything I ever learned about how to take care of yourself during a Kundalini awakening. And so I wasn't drinking water, I wasn't taking naps, I wasn't stretching, I was just like, my soul was so blown away. I couldn't believe what was happening. And because of that, I didn't have the anchor or the groundedness that the meat sack provides. Um, Thankfully things aligned, and then, I was involuntarily hospitalized. But that ended up being a journey and an experience. We all grow and we all learn. But something to keep in mind is, right, not just, people talk about spiritual bypassing, and I'm not necessarily going to talk about that here, but if we get really interested in the spiritual, that's great. And that's an important part of our wellness, just like socializing with other humans and having community is important. But then if we're not drinking water, period, that's an issue, right? The body is going to respond, and then that's going to take a toll on everything. If we're not eating something or consuming at least a nutritional shake, even if it has preservatives in it, I don't care. I'm not your doctor, and I'm not a doctor. So, I'm not really sure what's the bare minimum to keep a human alive, but we also want to do more than the bare minimum, right? Um, when we think about how powerful the mind and the body can be, how talented we can be, even the body, like just how if you're not in a great mental state, that can affect the physical body. And if your physical body is exhausted or in pain, that can affect your mental state. Um, and then both of those, if they're out of whack, can affect your spiritual state, the state of your soul, right? However, your soul is immortal and is strong and resilient. So, the it's it's funny to say this, but the only one who suffers is you, right? But you have to think about this. Even though your soul is immortal, the flesh is not. So even though your soul may live a million lives, this body is a one shot, a one time deal. Now, if you've had near to death experiences, or if you've been dead for like a few seconds, a few minutes, and then you were able to be resuscitated medically, I mean, kudos for you if you've like died and come back. Lazarus energy, right? That's kind of cool. However, overall, like we really only have one shot with this mind and body soul combo, right? The soul will always have more, but then if we lose out on this one, then that means the opportunities we had to clear karma, to, break what has been deemed generational trauma, generational curses, um, anything that we wanted to grow from our past, whether it's from childhood or even adulthood, anything we wanted to accomplish in this lifetime, our purpose, everything. One, not only will we have to be responsible for starting over and working on these things again in another lifetime, but can you imagine it's like working, you're almost finished with this essay. Maybe you're on page like 8 of 10. And then, the computer dies, it didn't save the document, and then you have to start from scratch. That's like what it's like when you get reincarnated. You don't get to bring your past life. It's not like your past life memories just automatically download and you're like, okay, I'm going to get a head start on this as soon as I'm born or as soon as I'm of a certain age. Like, no, it's a lot hard. It's gonna be a lot harder than that, especially because this is a new timeline, a new dimension, a new life. All these different characters, all these different soul contracts you now have are going to be different, and other souls are intertwined with you than previously that they were. So even tactics that you maybe would have used in this current lifetime in order to heal these wounds, in order to grow, in order to become, the best version of yourself you could, and in order to fulfill your purpose, and reach your dreams and goals and desires, all that's going to be so much harder. Your purpose also might shift. Your dreams may shift because your circumstances once you're born will be different. You'll be born in a different family. You may have a different ethnicity, a different gender identity. You may have a different socioeconomic class. You may be living in a different country. You don't know. So please, let's not take that chance. If we can help it, we want to be proactive, right? About taking care of ourselves. So moving towards, I get this energy of we're moving towards those destinations, those dreams, those goals. We kind of got a little kick in our step, right? Ace of Pentacles, but reverse. All right. And so we have this opportunity for fulfillment, financially and otherwise. We have this potentiality, this potential, right? But let's keep in mind that Nine of Swords reverse. Let's keep in mind where we're coming from is a place of stagnation and getting in our own way, and sometimes being our own antagonist. And that's really the biggest antagonist, and the only real antagonist is ourselves, right? And we're also, right, the being that's the most impossible to escape from is our self, right? So thinking about this body, this mind, this soul, this lifetime, we really want to not just be appreciative for what we have, but you know, dare to want more for yourself. If you desire more, don't be shy, and it's not just about having enough to survive. Working with some oracle cards now, we have purpose. Wow. I would say look at that, but I'm not showing it to you. Transformation. All right, transformation. Transformation is usually that energy we get with the death card, which, whoa, I just knocked out a lot of cards out of my deck. I have to go pick those up. But the death card, it jumped out when I was shuffling this other deck, but I wasn't 100% sure if the deck was like primed and ready. But of course, I don't believe in coincidences, so I should have took out the death card. I just didn't want to start with death, but here we are with transformation, right? Transformation. And so when this card I will describe, it has a snake on it. When you think about transformation and snakes, right? As like the snake is not a different or new snake, but it is required as they grow and as the seasons change for them literally to shed their skin. Just like how our skin cells are constantly regenerating and our skin is literally falling off, our hair is falling out every single day because new cells are regenerating, new cells are, old cells are dying every day. And this is just a part of how skin and hair works. But also thinking about what does not serve us anymore. Shed that shit. Shed what does not serve you. That's really important, right? Letting it go. Sometimes transformations don't have to be like these big makeovers, like we're on Queer Eye or something, that TV show. Like sometimes our transformations can be small but mighty adjustments we made in our lives. And sometimes we're the only ones that may be aware of it. It may only affect us, impact us. We live alone and we simply change how we do chores. Now, if we don't have guests over, or if we have guests over, but they don't know what we were struggling with in the past, and or we didn't share that information with them, they don't have any idea that we just overcame you know, this struggle with chores or what have you, just using that as an example, because that's one of mine. When it comes to stagnation and motivation that I have difficulty with, but thinking about what is something you can transform, and what is a way you can transform from into a new direction, one that is going to be beneficial and be suited for your best interest, for moving you closer to your dreams, closer to your purpose, closer to why you decided to incarnate in this lifetime in this way with all of these details. And that will become even clearer if it's not already revealed to you once you start letting go of what does not serve you. Sometimes it's even clearer to us what doesn't serve us and what's misaligned than what our purpose is. Maybe if you feel lost, or like, okay, I think I have an idea what my purpose is, but I have so many interests. Like, how do I know what's a hobby and what's a career? Or should I be focused on money? Should I just do my thing? Or maybe my purpose has nothing to do with my career. Or maybe my career is tied to my purpose, but neither of those are tied to what puts food on my table and how I make money. Maybe how I make money is just a job, and that is not the same thing as my career, how I identify in the world, or my purpose. Maybe that is different and separate too. And so you can use words however you want. You can take these however you want, and these messages however they'll resonate with you. But I wanted to dive into transformation a little bit, to transform, to transcend, to transition, thinking about even the prefix of transient, transnational, transracial, like we're, transdisciplinary, we're really, I mean, I'm a trans person, so I just love using the prefix of trans for everything. But when we're really thinking about like this power of transness, I think what anyone can connect to is the idea of transcending our fears, transcending negativity, transcending self-doubt, negative self-talk, bullying ourselves, self-hatred, self-loathing, not being able to love or forgive ourselves, transcending all of that, transforming and transmuting pain into love, pain into art. And then, therefore, when we are able to transform things in our life, even how we respond, and changing how we respond, what our habits are, how we react to certain situations, then we are internally transformed, and then externally transformed. Other people start to notice, hey, you're like glowing. Like, have you started a new skincare routine? And you'll say, no, I just broke up with, the worst person I ever dated. And now I have, I feel like a load is off my back, or I just quit this job, or I was finally able to clean my apartment and build new habits in my life, or whatever it may be for you. Other folks may recognize that transformation in you as external because you will radiate outward. And that is the beautiful thing about having a meat sack. Now, of course, if you want to keep things to yourself, you can, and that's totally up to you. But once you start to take charge and notice that you are in charge and can be in charge and in more charge of your own life, of your own path and your own narrative, then it's going to be really hard to hold back, and you may not even be able to help it. Other people may just start picking up on the energetic differences that you are going through. Let's see if there's any more cards from this oracle deck. Focus. So whether we pride ourselves on multitasking or not, there is this saying in psychology that technically the mind can't focus on one thing at once. And for some of us neurodivergent folks who may say, oh no, in order to focus on one thing, I need almost quote unquote distractions. Like I need music in the background. I need something to do with my hands in order to answer emails or focus in a meeting for work or otherwise. Sometimes we kind of need to be engaged in a few different ways, but I recommend if you are someone who does thrive off of multitasking and focusing on different things, then to kind of harness and pull in, if there are things you want to really, really get done and you always struggle with getting them done, then maybe in order to kind of mitigate the balance between focus, multitasking, and motivation, is really saying, okay, how can I maybe, instead of having like 8 projects that are just unfinished and only dabbling in a couple from time to time, maybe there are a fewer amount or even one that you feel more passionately about, or even just take it day by day. Maybe say, okay, today I want to focus on getting this one thing done. And even if you need to distract yourself intentionally with multitasking and other stimuli in order to help increase that focus and that energy, or to take breaks and come back to it, I encourage you to see what works for you. But really, that focus, to me, that reminds me of purpose, that purpose card. And it reminds me of this Eight of Wands card where this person is literally running toward, like, with so much excitement, like running, skipping, leaping in the air towards their goals, dreams, desires, chasing that purpose and what excites you, what feels aligned. But you also may have and a really strong sense of being able to focus. Sometimes it's just a matter of what are you passionate about? And what we're passionate about will be easier to focus on. What we're passionate about will be easier to complete, will be easier to work on, right? When we have interest in something, it's a little easier to do usually. As a human, we find ourselves really passion oriented, really interest oriented, and we even see this with children who are sometimes the most honest of us all, right? If a child is like, I'm bored, I don't like that, why are we doing this? This sucks. This is stupid. However children talk these days. A lot of that comes from the fact that they're not engaged because it's misaligned. It's not aligned with their, not just their interest, but with their truth, with their purpose. And they'll name that straight up, whether it's, school, family, friends, social setting. We have patience. So if there's seeds you've sown, things you've been waiting to work out for you, like, when will I like stop having to live paycheck to paycheck? When will I start like actually living my dream and have it not feel like a pipe dream, but like a real thing, a real part of who I am? Um, you know, Patience. Patience is a virtue, as they say, and patience is also a really beautiful thing to be able to master. And so there is something where it's like, if we don't beat ourselves up about being quote unquote lazy and struggling with motivation, underneath we uncover patience, the fact that we are able to be patient with ourselves and say, oh, you know what? It's been days, weeks, months, and I still haven't done blank. It's like, wow, you have so much patience. What if we were to replace procrastination with patience? That changes the whole perspective on how we think about life, action, behavior, human being versus human doing, right? We also have the card healing. And we definitely have healing with transformation. We have healing when it comes to purpose. We have healing when it comes to focus. Maybe you want to focus on healing mind, body, spirit right now. Vision. This card just jumped out. Vision. Like eyes on the prize. You've got vision. You've got a vision, and you may already know what it is. So that's beautiful from that deck to get purpose and vision. So all of this is to say, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dreams or your goals. And whenever things work out for you, whenever you become the best version of yourself that you want to be, that you decide and choose to be, is that best version, is that most aligned with what your truth is, what your authentic self is, what your purpose is, what your vision for your life is, will be the right time, will be divine timing. There is no such thing as something taking too long or not being the right time. We have healing energy, truth, and literally cannot make this up, divine timing on this next deck. So healing, we got that again. We got that in two different decks, healing and then healing energy, truth, which reminds me, okay, so okay, I will describe this a bit. The truth card has an eagle on it, and the vision card has a hawk on it. Technically, I believe it's a lot of the times in the United States when they depict eagles as being, the mascot for patriotism, all of that, they're technically hawks. So it is interesting to think about, like, oh, it's a hawk that's drawn and as if it's an eagle, but it's technically a hawk, or it's a photograph of a hawk, but people are saying it's an eagle. Here, there, it's very obvious the difference between them because their beaks are very different. But there is also the beauty of what I would point out with the eagle, which is on the truth. So hawk is on the vision, right? Like eyes on the prize. The eagle is on the truth. And that reminds me of Native American, indigenous peoples, United States, and how the eagle is connected to Sky Father. The eagle is not just some like mascot that's been claimed, by these stars and stripes on the flag and all of that, but thinking about animals in animal spirits as these very wise guides to us, and that wisdom, that ancient wisdom, like it's like if you were to come across an eagle in your path, that is an ancestor, or that is literally capital S spirit communicating with you, watching over you in that moment. And so for me, I see this as truth, capital T truth. So you know the capital T truth, or maybe you want to dive more into what that could mean for you, and what words you would use to describe your experience with source, divine source energy, divinity, spirit, and otherwise. And then we had healing energy and divine timing. And the divine timing I had brought up, and of course, it came out. And we also have burden. So this reminds me of that transformation card with the snake, right? Letting go of what no longer serves us, letting go of that baggage, letting go of those burdens. Lay your burdens down at the door. You don't need them here. And of course, it's easier said than done, because sometimes we're like, these things are haunting my memories, my dreams. I can't escape what's holding me back, but we can. And sometimes it'll take a lot of therapy. Sometimes we can do release rituals, but we can play around and see what works for us. Because one day, the thing that was holding us back the most from expressing ourselves, from living our truth, from being the most successful will poof and evaporate and no longer be holding us back in that same way. So I hope this message helped. I hope it was encouraging, and you just got to stick with your dreams. Don't give up on your dreams, and most importantly, don't give up on yourself. Take care of your mind, body, and spirit. And remember, they are all intrinsically connected. So you don't take care of one or two, and you value one more important than the others, then that will show up and maybe not give you desired outcomes. So do what you can, find professionals if you don't already have medical and therapeutic professionals in your life. And they don't have to be Western professionals, right? They don't have to be Western doctors. You can try alternative medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine is valued quite highly across the world. And sometimes even my body responds better to acupuncture than it does to pharmaceutical medications. So it really just depends on what your ailments are, what your symptoms are, and what you got going on. We're all different. Some of us can just pop a vitamin supplement from the pharmacy and we'll be good. Some of us, our meat sacks need a lot more upkeep than that, right? So please take care. And if you are on a mission, follow that mission through to the best of your ability. And remember that there is no rush, because there is no time like the present. And the greatest present of all is the present moment. And then you think about that, it is infinite, because each moment we find ourselves not in the future, but in the present. And that infinite existence creates infinite gifts of presence, pun intended. All right, y'all. Hope you have a good rest of your week, good rest of your days, evenings, and lifetimes whenever you come across this video. Peace and light.